now.
Am I audible to all?
Yes, yes, you are
Yes,
audible.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. So today I am going to discuss about a fractional mastery method for the brain tumor detection and segmentation. So these are the main topics which we are going to discuss in next 1 hour. So we will talk about the fractional calculus and the data set which we have used, and then we will talk about the methodology which we have developed at IIIT Jabalpur. So this work is belonging to one of my PhD student who has just submitted his PhD. So, cancer is one of the most common cause, which is recurring many deaths around the world, and this is also reported by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. And in American Society of Clinical Oncology is expecting around 23,820 adults who are going to be treated for the cancerous different type of cancer in 2019. So, and we have already seen that the survival rate in the case of the cancer is very low. So early detection of the cancerous disease is going to help to increase the survival rate. So in this whole work, we are focusing on how we can increase the survival rate by having a early detection of the disease. So what we have seen that brain is very complex and is part of our central nervous system, and most of the signals which are generated by different parts of body, they are processed in the brain, and different parts of the body are getting the signals and from the brain and acting on the same depending on the cells. So what happens when the growth of the cells in the brain is going to increase in a very rapid way, then the balance between the normal cells and the die cells is going to disturb, and these extra cells are going to create a tumor. Your tumor may be a cancerous, and it may not be a cancerous tumor also, but a tumor can lead to a cancer in future, but it is not always compulsory. If so, the idea is that if we are able to detect a tumor more accurately, we are going to limit the occurrence of the cancer in the brain. So early detection of tumor is going to play a vital role. Although we are not saying that all the tumors are going to be a cancerous, but early detection of brain tumor is going to reduce the possibilities of having a cancer in the brain. There are many methodologies which are available in the market also, which are used to scan your brain, like X-rays, ultrasound, MRI, PET, etc. Mainly, this brain tumor is classified in two categories: primary brain tumor and secondary brain tumor. And normally, we are talking about the primary brain tumor, which we are calling it as a brain tumor. It has four grades: grade one, grade two, grade three, grade four. And depending on the size of the this tumor, we are dividing these into different categories. Fine. The growth of the benign tumor is very slow, and it is restricted to one part of the body. It is not going to change to the other part of the body. But the growth of the malignant tumor is very slow, tumor is very fast. If it happens at one part of the body, it is chain and it is not going to convert into the grade 3 and grade 4, and the possibility of having a cancer is going to increase. By which we are going to segment Sorry for this interrupt. There was some problem with the network. Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, now fine.
It's fine, sir.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Oh. So I was saying that the concept of fractional calculus is not new. It was a very old concept, and the idea is that fractional calculus uses the functions history also when we are going to utilize it for the derivation calculation. So it is having more information about the functions, about its history also. So it can represent a function in a better way, and we can get more informations about the function and its behavior when we are utilizing the fractional calculus instead of this integer calculus order. So in this whole work, we have used the Riemann-Leibniz. So in this, we have used the Riemann-Leibniz definition of the fractional calculus to calculate the derivative. The reason behind using the Riemann-Leibniz definition is that in this definition, the derivative of a constant is not a zero. Like in a integer order differentiation, you will find that if you are going to differentiate a constant, it will provide you a zero. And the reason behind this nature of the fractional calculus is that in Riemann-Leibniz definition, you can see that the integer is present inside the definition itself. So first we are going to integrate and then we are going to differentiate. So if we are having a constant and going to integrate it further, then it will be not a non-constant function. And when we are differentiating it, we will get some value. So even we can study the nature of a constant also by using a fractional calculus, which is not possible in the case of the integer calculus case. So we are going to use the Riemann-Leibniz definition, and here you can see we are going to first integrate the function and then we are going to perform the differentiation of the integer order. The integration is fractional order and differentiation is integer order. So let's say we want, if we want to compute a differentiation of 0.5 order of a function, then we are first going to integrate by 1.5. Then we are going to differentiate by 1. So we will get a 1.5 differentiation likewise. So this concept we are going to utilize in this work. And to validate the whole work, we have developed a numerical phantom, which is the head phantom originally given by Shannon. And we have performed some modification in that phantom. We have generated a 1024 cubical phantom on that, and we have tested our algorithm on the real data set also. That is the Braid's challenge data set. We are having 243 images out of 135 for the high grade cancers and 108 are low grade cancer. And we have used another brain tumor data set also, where we are having 3064 contrast images which are belonging to 233 patients. So our algorithm is validated on the numerical data set as well as the real live data set also. So first we are going to talk about the numerical phantom which we have developed. The numerical head phantom, which was proposed by Shannon in 1970s, it has originally 10 eclipses. So we have added one extra eclipse. You can see the bottom row having the values 0, 3, 23, 11, 23, 655, 655, 512, etc. So this is the last row which we have modified in the original phantom proposed by Shannon. So now our numerical phantom is having 11 eclipses. You can see it here, the visual picture here. This is the numerical phantom. We have introduced one extra eclipse which we have marked as red here. This is only to show you by the values of this eclipse is very close to the surrounding, so that it can represent the benign tumor case, because in the case of the benign tumor the density of the tumorous cell is going to be very similar to the density of the normal cell. So we are representing it by a very small change. So for the viewing only we have marked it by the red, but by naked eyes it will not be visible. So this is the 2D phantom. This is the 3D view of the numerical phantom which we have developed. And to check how good our performance of the algorithm is, we have to check the performance, we have gone through different kind of matrices we have used. For numerical phantom, because we do not have the for the images where we do not have the ground truth of the boundaries, we have used DCR, DER, and DSR for the performance measurement. And for the cases where we are having the ground truth images, we have used the Dice coefficient, Jaccard coefficient, and Hausdorff coefficient distance for the comparative measure. Let's first discuss about these matrices which we have used for the comparative purpose. Here, DER, detect error ratio, is representing a behavior where your algorithm is providing how many edges which other algorithms are not able to detect. So DER is providing you the edge pixel even which your algorithm is able to predict but others are not. While DCR is providing the edge pixels which are commonly detected by the algorithms. And DCS is nothing but the ratio of this DER and DCR. So this we have used where we do not have the ground truth of the images. While when we are having the ground truth of the images, we have used the Dice coefficient and Jaccard index and Hausdorff distance. And these were used. So let's first come to how we have designed the mask. So what we have to find that most of the masks are the gradient based, and people are using the first order gradient or second order gradient to design the mask. Here we have talked about the first order gradient based mask. You can see that any gradient function can be approximated by using a Taylor series extension. So you can see here that we have approximated the forward x directional gradient with the Taylor series, and similarly we have approximated the backward gradient in the x direction with the Taylor series. Same concept has been utilized with the y direction also, where we have approximated the forward and backward gradient with the help of the Taylor series extension. And to calculate the gradient, we have used the center difference calculation scheme. Like we have calculated the forward gradient and backward gradient, then on the basis of that we have calculated the gradient by using the center difference formula. And by this you can see this is the x directional gradient, and this is going to provide you the y directional gradient. So mask of any size 3 cross 3 or 5 cross 5 can be developed on the basis of this gradient equations. And for the simplicity, if we are going to make any mask, This is the mask formula, where G1 and GKs are the coefficients, binomial coefficients, which can approximate the equation 13 and 14, which I have shown you previously. So similarly for the y direction also, we can get this mask on the basis of this generalized binomial coefficient. So instead of directly calculating the differentiation, we have approximated this with the help of the binomial coefficient, and this generalized formula can be utilized to have the different mask values. So we have implemented it, and this is the algorithm to calculate it. So first you have to calculate on these formula, and then we have provided some thresholding, and you will get a mask. Fine. So now for calculating the edges, this mask must be superimposed over the image, and that is done by using a convolution operation. So for edge detection, we are going to perform the convolution operation. You can see it here, that grade x is calculated by the convolution of the image I and the mask x. So mask x is nothing but the x directional mask. So we have to convolve it over the image I. Similarly, we have to convolve the mask y, which we have generated in the same way, and that is going to provide us the grade y. And the gradient image can be calculated as the square root sum over the square of these gradient x and gradient y. And depending on this gradient image, we are going to perform some thresholding on this gradient image, and that thresholding will provide us the edges. Fine. So finally we will get the edges like this. So you can see it here, that we are having the original phantom on the left hand side, and you can see a red mark which we have provided only for the visual representation, and on the right hand side you can see the edges which we have got from our algorithm. Fine. So here you can see that on the middle you are having a boundaries which with the naked eyes you are not able to visualize in the images itself. So this region, this is the 11th eclipse which we have included in our numerical phantom, and our algorithm is able to detect it accurately. So we have done it for this, and here the fractional order, the differentiation is taken as 1.5. So this result are belonging to 1.5 order of differentiation. These are the results which were obtained by the Sobel and Privet. You can see that Privet is not able to predict that low intensity vision which is introduced in the numerical phantom. Similarly, Laplacian and Canny, same kind of results is obtained. But even in Laplace and Canny, what we have find, the outer edges are also breaking. So this is the problem which we have reported. If we are going for the comparative study, you can see our algorithm is going to detect most of the values. Your DCR is going to represent the common edges. So you can see that 84% of the edges are commonly detected by Sobel, Privet, Canny, and Laplacian. But our method is detecting more, and that more is the 11th eclipse which we have introduced, which is having a very low intensity variation with its neighbors, and our method is accurately predicting that. So basically what this mask based approach, this is basically a fractional calculus based approach. In this approach we are convolving the mask over the image, and this convolution operation is very compute intensive, And what we have found, if we are going to use it for 1024 cubic data, it is going to take around 50,000 seconds. So it is a very time consuming process. So we have thought about that how we can reduce the execution time of the algorithm. So there were two approaches which we have come up with that can. First was that can we shift to the Fourier domain and make this convolution operation as a multiplication, and we have done that, but the accuracy of the method reduces. So we have gone through another approach of the mesh approach, that instead of going to the frequency domain, we should restrict here and perform this whole operation by using the mesh approach. So for mesh approach, we have developed a partial differential equation, which we is a generalized partial differential equation. If you are going to change the values, it will provide you the wave equation as well as the heat equation. That's why we are calling it as a generalized differential equation. So in this case, you can see on the left hand side, we are having the derivation over the time, and on the right hand side, we are having the derivation over the space. So for time we are not going. So for the time we are not going for the mesh tree. Only the right hand side solution is we are going to do it by the mesh tree approach. So in literature it is already available that your diffusion blurs the images, and if we are going to have the difference of diffusion, then it is going to provide the edges present in the images. So the concept is that can we obtain the difference of two diffusions. So first we have to think of having two diffusion, and then we can have a difference of diffusion to find the edges. So that concept is utilized here. So in this case, what we have seen that if we are having the Gaussian blurring at two different standard deviation, then it is equivalent to your diffusion also. And this difference of diffusion is equivalent with the relation that your standard deviation should be equal to under root 2 dt, where d is the diffusivity coefficient. So if we are going to utilize this concept, then your diffusion is equivalent to your difference of Gaussian, and difference of Gaussian is going to provide you the edges. So we have made a relationship with this edge detection, and the whole concept can be shifted to a partial differential equation, which can be solved with the use of the mesh-free approaches. So for the time discretization, as I have told you, for the mesh-free approach, we have done only for the right hand side for the space field. For the time, we have not gone for the mesh-free approach. So time discretization has been done by using the forward difference method, and it is approximated with the help of the Taylor series. So you can see that this time difference can be expanded with the help of the Taylor series, and if we are going to rearrange, we will have the derivative of u with respect to t and the other higher order term of the delta t. So we are taking it right now, and this equation 20 will be further used for calculating the time discretization. Similarly, for the space discretization, we are going to have the mesh tree. The main problem with the convolution operation was that we are having a mask and we are having a image, and both are a meshes. So we have to overlap the mask over the mesh, and we have to follow the structure of the image. So if we are going to follow this, then the computation time will be high, because you have to follow a particular structured way. So to reduce that, what we have think of, that can be thought of this whole convolution operation in the mesh tree. In the concept of mesh tree, we are thinking that an image is nothing but a collection of nodes, and these nodes are lying in your domain, but the nodes are not having any relationship. So if we do not have the relationship, we have break the structure way of the image. So that concept we are utilizing it here, and for this some interpolation is needed, because when we are talking about the thinking of the nodes which can approximate the structured image, then we must have to come up with those nodes. So those nodes are going to be calculated with the help of this interpolation formula. So any function, we are going to have a function sxy, which is just interpolating our structured image ui at any point xi. So this interpolation formula is then can be approximated with the help of the radial basis function, and the equation can be written as the lambda j into phi rj, as here the rj is nothing but the Euclidean distance. So in this formula we have used the Euclidean distance, and there are many radial basis function phi available in the literature, like the multi-quadratic, inverse multi-quadratic, likewise others are available. And what we are going to do, we are going to calculate n nodes which can approximate a structured mesh. Fine. And that we are doing with the interpolation of Sx. Sx is going to provide us those nodes. So this concept, this whole structure can also be written in the form of the linear matrix form, where the U is nothing but A lambda, where A is the interpolation matrix, and lambda is determined on the basis of your radial basis function. That is the representing the radial basis function. So what we can do, this interpolation matrix A can be written in terms of phi, and we have seen in the previous slide itself that your lambda is unknown RBF expansion coefficient, and your phi rj is nothing but your radial basis function. Fine. So my interpolation matrix is written in terms of that. So if from this equation 23, if we want to calculate this unknown RBF expansion coefficient, then they can be calculated on the basis of A inverse U. Fine. So that this concept we are using in this discretization approach. So if this whole thing we are going to shift in our main generalized differential equation, so you can see we have find from the time discretization we have find this left hand side, that uijkn plus 1 is un upon delta t. This is the time discretization we have already seen in previous slide, and this is the space discretization. So we have denoted this delta alpha x, which is representing the x directional alpha order derivative of a function u, this u. So this is representing your derivative in the x direction of order alpha. Similarly, it is representing y directional derivative of order alpha. Similarly, it is z direction derivative of order alpha. If we are going to simplify this whole concept, then each of these can be represented like this. The whole value is written here. This is the derivative function. If we are going to sum these, because here in this equation you can find that there is a summation of this. So if we are going to sum equation 27, 28 and 29, then we can represent it by a equation of summation b lambda. Fine, where B is also a matrix which can be calculated on the basis of the derivative matrix. And if we are going to put the value of lambda from previously, you can see the lambda is nothing but A inverse U. You can see it here that this, you can say lambda is A inverse U. If we are going to put it here in this equation 30, then it will become BA inverse U. Now we can assume that this BA inverse is nothing but the H, which is the differentiation matrix. So to simplify all this mathematics, then the whole concept is going to be very simple, which we can implement directly. We are directly calculating H, and you can see it here in the B. When we are talking about B, you are calculating the fractional derivative of radial basis function. Here phi was the radial basis function with the Euclidean distance, and you are calculating the fractional derivative of the radial basis function. So we have to come up with a methodology by which we can calculate these derivatives directly. So we will see it in the next slide, that how we can calculate the fractional derivative of the radial basis function, and then we can put them at this and we will get our required value. So to calculate all these, we have used the alternate direction implicit methodology to simplify all these things, which is presented in the previous slide. And you can see this is just some left and right hand shifting of the values. Then we are coming with the ADI, and what we are going to do, we are going to calculate the intermediate step. In the previous, we are talking about from n to n plus 1. Now this n to n plus 1 is divided in n plus 1 by 3, 2 by 3, and n plus 1. So this approach is known as the ADI, alternate direction implicit. So ADI is nothing but a splitting method, which splits the problems into a number of sub problems depending on your domain. So here we have divided it in 3 parts. So now we are having the values of the intermediate terms of 1 by 3 and 2 by 3. If we are going to put the values of this in this equation and remove all this, we will have a generalized equation 38, which will represent like this. Fine. And here this is nothing but it can be written in the same form which we have calculated in terms of the H. H was nothing but BA inverse. So it is written in the terms of the BA inverse itself. Now to calculate the fractional derivative of RBF functions, we are going to utilize the concept of the Raymond-Liouville fractional differentiation values, and that definition is used here. Radial basis function, here we are having the multi-quadratic radial basis function, which we are representing with the 1 plus ER square, under root of 1 plus ER square. That is the multi-quadratic radial basis function. And we are going to use the RL definition to calculate this Dever alpha upon Dever R alpha. So we will have this formula. And when we are going to generalize it, we are going to have these functions which can be easily calculated. And when we are going to put it in our equation of the difference of diffusion, what we are going to have, we will get the edges. So these edges are going to be given with the help of the difference of diffusion. Fine. So this is the algorithm. So we have divided this whole in algorithm in multiple steps, and then we are going to use it. You can see it here that your H is calculated once, and then it is utilized at every point. We have seen in the previous equation that there was a terminology of I minus H or I plus H. So we are calling I minus H as left matrix and I plus H as a right matrix. So if we have left matrix and right matrix, then we have put it into the equation 40, this equation 45. and we will get the our desired result. So this is for the extraction. So we have detected the tumor lesion and then we have to extract it. So for the extraction purpose, what we have done, first we have detected it by using the IDOD. Then we have complemented the IDOD and have performed the connected component analysis, and then perform the thresholding over that to extract the region from the images. So we are able to segment the brain tumor region effectively by using this algorithm. So here you can see, if we are going to see on the left hand side, we are having our original phantom, and on the right hand side we are you can see the 11th eclipse which we have introduced. You can easily find it, and this is also with the same value of alpha, which is 1.5. But if we are going to see the other results, these are the results of the Sobel and Privet. You can see that in both these cases we are not able to detect the 11th eclipse very finely. And similarly, these are the results for the Zucker-Hamel and Laplacian. Here also you can see even the boundary edges are broken. So the results we are not able to detect that, but our algorithm is detecting that 11th eclipse, which is having a very minute difference with the background very effectively. So this is the Bratz data set. Here the first row is representing your the images, your city images which they have got, and second row is representing the ground truth of the tumorous region which is present in the brain, and the third row is the result obtained by the level set method. Here you can see for the first image, the level set method is performing good. We are able to segment the region accurately. But for the other images, the performance of the level set method is not up to the mark. Fine. And similarly, when we are going for the other methods like O et al, Maksud et al, in both the algorithms, the performance is not up to the mark. But when we are talking about our proposed method, you can see for the image 1, 2, and 3, the results are very good. But in 4, we are also having some black spots, which you can see it here. Our algorithm is, if you will go to the ground truth image is this, but in our case also we are having some artifact. But for the other cases, our algorithm is performing very good. So performance was good, and the execution time is also reduced by a significant margin. And if we are talking about the comparative study with the DER and all those things, we are getting more better results as compared to the other literature algorithms. These are the dice coefficient, Jaccard coefficients, and Hausdorff. You can see the proposed algorithm. It is providing the dice coefficient, which is around 90%. So our approach is providing the results which are 90% similar to the ground truth. Similarly, with the Jaccard also, the results are of the same order, and same can be seen on the Hausdorff coefficient also. So the point is that our algorithm is providing better result in that cases also. When we are talking about the execution time, you can see that here in this case, the execution time of our proposed algorithm is better than the Sobel, Privet, and Zucker-Hamel, but it is not good in the frequency domain and Laplacian. The reason is in the frequency domain, what happens, the whole concept of convolution is just the multiplication of the mask with the image. So the execution time is very low. But the point is the accuracy is not as good as in the proposed method also. So we have to take a call that how much we can take for the accuracy and how much we can go for the CPU time. So in the form of your mesh tree execution time, the execution time get reduced, but we didn't compromise with the quality of the results. So mesh tree approach is faster and providing better result as compared to the your mesh based approach. But when we are talking about the methods like frequency domain, then it is a slower method, but the accuracy is better than the frequency domain methods also. So conclusions are that mesh tree approaches are good and they can be used for the applications where we are basically having a mesh based approach, which is a very time consuming process. What we have seen that when we are going from mesh to mesh tree, the quality is not compromised. But when we are going from mesh to frequency domain, the quality is also compromised. Although frequency domain methods were very fast, but they are not as accurate as the mesh free approaches. So these mesh free approaches are going to be a good solution for these kind of problems which can be handled, because if we are able to detect the tumor in the early stage, then we can have more better survival ratio, which is the main motive of this whole thing. So this is all which I want to say. Now, if you are having any question, you can ask. So any question? Kaushien, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, audible.
So if you are having any question, we can have some few quick questions.
Yeah, from participant now open for participants. If anybody have any doubt, please raise the question. Yeah, Professor George.
Your
Very interesting presentation. Very interesting. How you compare the accuracy of your model?
pardon, Professor George.
Yeah. How do you compare the accuracy?
Yes, we have compared the accuracy of our method with the Brad's data set where we are having the ground truth images, and we have found that the accuracy is around 90%.
Good. So you consider the 3064 T1 images, correct?
Yes.
And you took the average. You took the variance. Okay.
Yeah, it is an average accuracy.
Okay. This is the way to be done. Okay. Very interesting presentation. Very interesting.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody? Any other question?
I have another question. Once you design the numerical phantom, okay, the numerical phantom, you're using based on MRI approach. What parameters do you consider to make this numerical phantom for MRI?
Basically, when we are designing this numerical phantom, our main motive was that we should have the textural information about the brain as well as the contrast information about the brain also. because
Thank
we
you.
are having many parts of the brain, and the density of the tissues between in the brains are going to be very similar. So that's why we have, when we are designing this numerical phantom, we have put it in the form of different eclipses, and those eclipses are going to have a different density value inside it and different density value outside it, so they can represent a different part of the brain. And when a tumor is going to grow in the your brain itself, the density of that is going to be similar to the outer region. So that's why we have used a tumorous region which is having a very low variation with the outer density region. So these things we have taken care.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor George.
Thank you.
Anyone have any more questions? Now it's time to close the session. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Bajpayee sir. Thanks, Professor George, with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now we are
Okay.
going break for lunch. Next session will start
Okay.
at 4. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.